Every year, on my birthday, I'd wake up hoping that maybe this time would be different. Maybe there'd be a cake waiting for me, maybe balloons, maybe just one small surprise. But every year, the same silence filled the house. No music, no decorations, no happy birthday. And just a few weeks later, it would happen again. A grand party for my brother. Streamers, a mountain of gifts, laughter echoing through the house. Everyone dancing, everyone smiling, everyone celebrating him. I'd sit in the corner pretending not to care, pretending it didn't hurt. But inside, I was breaking. Every year they forgot me, or maybe they just chose to ignore me. But this time I decided things would be different. This year, I wouldn't wait for them to remember. This year, I would remind them who I was as a kid. I never questioned it. I thought maybe I didn't deserve attention. My brother was the loud one, the funny one, the favorite. He'd charm everyone, while I stayed quiet, drawing in corners or reading books. When I was 10, I remember asking Mom, "Why don't I get a party like him?" She smiled awkwardly and said, "Sweetheart, you're not into parties like he is." That day, I learned to hide my disappointment behind a fake smile. At school, my friends would talk about gifts and celebrations, and I'd nod along, pretending I had the same. But deep down, I felt forgotten, like my existence didn't matter. It wasn't about the cake. It was about being seen, being loved, being remembered. And for years, I convinced myself it was okay, until I grew up and realized it wasn't. My 21st birthday came and went in silence again. I sat in my room while downstairs my family planned my brother's graduation party. I overheard them laughing, talking about decorations and catering, all on my birthday night. That was the night something inside me broke. It wasn't just sadness anymore. It was realization. They were never going to treat me equally unless I made them. That night, I decided to change everything. I started journaling my feelings, writing down every year they forgot, every emotion I buried. I wasn't doing it out of revenge. I was doing it to remember, to make sure I never accepted invisibility again. I promised myself, next year, they would remember my name. For the first time in my life, I decided to plan my own birthday. I saved money, booked a small venue, and made a guest list. I invited my friends, my cousins, even some coworkers. And yes, I invited my family too. I didn't tell them it was my birthday party. I just said it was a small get-together. I wanted to see if they'd come, if they'd show up for me when it wasn't about my brother. Meanwhile, I posted little reminders online, countdowns, photos, memories. I wasn't being dramatic. I was being visible. People started asking, "Hey, are you doing something special this year?" And for the first time, I said, yes. It felt powerful, like reclaiming a piece of myself that had been missing all along. The day arrived. I decorated the venue myself. Golden balloons, fairy lights, my favorite cake flavor. I even made a slideshow of childhood memories, including pictures of the birthdays I spent alone. When my family arrived, they looked confused. My mom asked, "What's this?" I smiled and said, "It's my birthday." Silence. Then my brother laughed awkwardly. "Wait, today's your birthday?" The look on their faces, shock, guilt, disbelief. For the first time in years, they had to face what they'd been ignoring. I didn't lash out. I didn't yell. I just smiled and said, "Welcome. I'm glad you came." During dinner, my mom whispered, "You should have reminded us." That hit hard. I replied softly, "Should I really have to remind you that your daughter exists?" My father stayed quiet, but I saw it in his eyes. He understood. Then my brother said, "I didn't realize you cared so much about birthdays." I looked at him and said, "It's not about birthdays. It's about being treated like I matter too." The room fell silent. It wasn't anger that spoke. It was truth. For the first time, they saw how deep the wound ran, not just forgotten parties, but forgotten feelings. After that night, something changed. My mom hugged me, really hugged me for the first time in a long time. She whispered, "I'm sorry. I never meant to make you feel less loved." My brother apologized too. He admitted he'd noticed, but never said anything. That honesty broke the ice. For the first time, We talked about things we'd buried for years: favoritism, comparison, silence. It wasn't perfect, but it was healing. They started to understand that small neglects can create lifelong scars. That night, when they sang Happy Birthday, I cried. Not out of sadness, but relief. Because after all those years, they finally saw me. In the weeks that followed, my family made efforts. My mom started checking in more. My dad planned family dinners. My brother, surprisingly, helped me organize next year's birthday. For once, it wasn't about making up for guilt. It was about building something new. I also learned something important. People can't fix what they don't understand. You have to tell them when you're hurting. That confrontation didn't destroy us. It rebuilt us. It turned silence into understanding, distance into connection. Looking back, I realized that being ignored taught me something powerful. It taught me the value of self-worth. If you wait for others to validate you, you might wait forever. Sometimes you have to be your own reminder. You have to love yourself loud enough that others notice. That birthday wasn't about cake or candles. It was about courage. The courage to say, I matter too. And maybe that's what love really is, not grand gestures, but remembering someone's heart. Now, every year, my birthday is small but full of meaning. My family never forgets anymore. We don't do big parties, but they call, they visit, they remember. And every time I blow out those candles, I make the same wish, not for gifts or fame, but for acknowledgement, for kindness, for balance. So if you've ever felt forgotten, unloved, or unseen, listen to me. You are not invisible. You deserve to be celebrated. You deserve to be remembered. And sometimes you just have to start that celebration yourself. Because once you do, the world starts remembering you. A year later, I woke up to the sound of laughter downstairs. For a moment, I thought it was another party for my brother. My chest tightened. But when I walked out of my room, I froze. The house was filled with golden lights, the smell of vanilla cake, and a banner that said, Happy Birthday, your name. My brother was holding balloons, my mom was baking, and my dad was tuning the old radio I loved as a kid. They remembered. Not because I reminded them, but because they finally wanted to. I stood there, tears in my eyes, realizing something important. Love doesn't always start perfect. Sometimes it needs a wake-up call. Sometimes it takes silence breaking before hearts begin to listen. When they hugged me, I felt years of loneliness melt away. It wasn't just a birthday anymore, it was a moment of rebirth. I learned that forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it frees you from carrying its weight. And as we sat cutting the cake, I whispered a quiet thank you, not just to them, but to myself. Because if I hadn't stood up for my worth, this moment would have never existed. Sometimes you don't fight to be loved. You fight to remind others what love should look like. That night, surrounded by laughter, I finally felt it. I belonged.